The third episode of Al Jazeera's The Labour Files deals with what the Ford report called a hierarchy of racism in the Labour Party. Let's take a look at a key clip.
The Ford report also describes a
hierarchy of racism. The party's more recent steps to address the problems with anti-Semitism, for example, have not been matched by a commitment to tackle other forms of racism.
When I would speak to my peers and the superiors about why we're not tackling Islamophobia and anti-Black racism with the same ferocity as we were with anti-Semitism, the response was always, anti-Semitism is the organization's priority. As soon as an email would come in from the Jewish Chronicle, I would be told to stay behind and act on that case, even if it was just to suspend the member without even sending them questions, just so we can go back to the Jewish Chronicle and say, we've suspended this member.
Other forms of discrimination do not result in automatic suspension.
When we'd get lists from Labour Muslim Network, they would often sit in the complaints centre for a while or in the complaints inbox. We weren't ever instructed to work on those immediately.
The files show that journalist Rod Liddle is also being investigated. He'd written,
"For many Muslims, the anti-Semitism is visceral, an ingrained part of their unpleasant ideology."
Party official Emily Oldknow emails,
"He would be suspended under bringing the party into disrepute. Didn't want to do anything because he's a journalist, without you knowing about it first."
John Stolliday, the head of party's governance and legal unit, writes,
Apparently Rod Liddle is chummy with Ian Austin, and by extension, TW. I still want to do this, but we're not under pressure to do it, so may just sit on it for now.
TW refers to then Deputy Leader Tom Watson, who along with MP Ian Austin opposes the Corbyn leadership. 2 years later, Liddle is eventually suspended.
Now, I have to say, I didn't think that episode was completely flawless. There was sort of a moment where they were saying there is this landlord who owns 10 properties, 33 Labour members live in them, but to question that would be, dog whistle racism. I wasn't totally convinced by the whole program, but I think that clip we just showed you there was pretty indisputable that that's incredibly worrying. The idea that you have, I'm not going to deal with it because he's friends with an MP. Can you imagine if that had been a left-wing staff member and a left-wing MP? Like, we wouldn't have heard the end of it. That would have been the front page of all of the national newspapers. But because this was right-wingers, because there was no vested interest in destroying an anti-establishment politician, no one cared. Also, I think what was notable there was finally seeing a network care about the Ford report. Now, what was in the Ford report was pretty goddamn hard-hitting. It was pretty newsworthy. And it was almost completely ignored by the mainstream media. You have to wait for Al Jazeera to release a documentary. Maurice, I want your take on this, both the Al Jazeera documentary and also the extent to which the Ford report has been completely ignored, both by the party leadership and by the media as well.
Yeah, this is a huge issue, to be honest, Michael. As you say, I'm a Labour councillor. I'm active in the party. I'm part of a group called Labour Black Socialists, where we talk quite a lot about issues that of racism, Afrophobia, Islamophobia within the party. There's always been an issue with institutional racism in any organisation. So I'd say that there are issues even under Corbyn. There were issues. What seems to be the case now is that issues of sort of black racism or Islamophobia or they really are ignored. We really don't feel as if we're taken very seriously. For one of the most loyal, to be honest, demographics in this country when it comes to voting Labour and turning out and being active, hearing that when we do get a representative into Parliament, a Diane Abbott or a Clive Lewis or a Dawn Butler or whatever, when we hear that they're being they're facing the crap that we sort of face on the outside. They're facing that from people within inside the party that I pay my subs to every month. It's really difficult to take. We can all talk about right, now's the time to pull together in unity. We need to get rid of the Tories. Absolutely, sure, but if Labour is going to really bring change when it comes to things like structural racism, which I'm certainly crying out for, we need to be best practice. We need to be the change that we want to see. We can't be a party that quite frankly ignores uses race at most times as a factional weapon and ignores complaints from black and brown members because of where they're perceived to be politically. That's very much how it feels. I mean, nothing in the Al Jazeera files was shocking. It's all stuff that I feel like we knew that this sort of abuse was happening. And we knew these sorts of things go on because we have them happen to us. We have our own members being suspended. We're being sanctioned for all sorts of things that shouldn't be sanctionable. So yeah, this is Labour really do need to get a grip with this. Keir really does. I know that there was the apology, which was a bit more like, I say what he said. He apologized, and I kind of agree with him. That's not he needs to treat our communities with some respect, and he needs to treat our representatives with some respect. I don't think this is the end of the conversations about the Ford report. I don't think this is the end at all. A lot of people are very upset.